All right, I'm back, and it's been a couple of days since I've been away from camera and making these videos for y'all, but it's just because I've been taking up a couple more projects recently, just business related stuff recently. I've been ordering a lot of bank cards and stuff like that for business related purposes. And yeah, so I've just been doing, a lot, but I'm back on here and I wanted to make a new video. And the title of it is, right? The only thing I require from her is my respect. So it's like, women require a lot from us men. They require for us to be attractive. And for us to come across as attractive, there are so many different like categories and aspects to that they want and looking for to even consider us to be an option for them. And if you don't have these things or are not working on all of these things simultaneously, you're going to lose out on the option, or you're going to lose out on the possibility of even being an option to her. So, but because women don't have to work on these things themselves, like making a lot of money, like becoming extremely muscular, like like being able to speak eloquently and mean what you say when you talk, and speak from a real place, speak from what you feel in the actual moment, and be able to convey yourself and have a conversation, and a wide vocabulary, being able to use different terms for different circumstances and scenarios, right? All of this stuff that us men we have to learn. Women, they don't have the same capacity to learn as us, and therefore they don't understand the intensity that it takes for us having to do this on a daily basis to be able to hit the level in which we can actually become an unlocked character and discoverable, to them, right? Because if you're not leveling up as a man, you're essentially an unlocked character to all women, you know, who are viewing the field and have access to all the characters in the game, right? When you start to level up, that's when you start to become an unlocked character, right? But you're still going to be like of a low level until you start to rise up and gain more, I would say, become better looking, whether that's going to the gym, whether that's doing surgery alongside that, um, you know, having a better diet, sleeping better, all of these things, right, that you can do naturally, but also in a manufactured sense as well, like with surgery and stuff like that, which is, it's not natural, but it is an enhancement to the way you look. So if you couple all of these things together, you then find yourself to be like a top tier man in that looks category, right? Then on top of that, you have the money category. You have, how much do you earn? And then also, how often do you get paid? Do you get access to your, your take home more than once per month? Do you have multiple paydays in a month? Are you able to get paid damn near every single day, or get to a point where you can get paid every single day and make withdrawals every single day if you was so pleased to, you know? Or are you only getting paid once a month and have to budget your expenses in your life around that once a month, and you got to be a bit more strategic and tactical because you don't have like the ability to be as spontaneous because you only get paid once per month, right? And then the actual amount of how much you're earning and what's the potential, can it grow from that point, or is it something that is more so fixed and you're earning, say, just £20 per hour, you're working at, I don't know, McDonald's, and that's kind of all you're ever going to earn whilst working at McDonald's, So, or do you run a business to the point where if you're running an organization and you have customers making purchases on your products every single day, or services, right? And you're able to be active on the market every single day, and they can make purchases outside of operating hours so that you're making money in your sleep, then that definitely serves as like a factor of something that has more leverage, right? As opposed to just working kind of like a 9 to 5. And then can you grow your business? What could your business grow to? What is the niche that you're operating within? Is it music? Is it art? Is it like, photography? How far can that really go? What are the most successful people in your field earning, and what are they doing that you could also implement to get yourself up to similar results? All of these things. You see how strategic and tactical a man's life is, and it's so complicated. It's so curated that all women need to do is fall into the frame, as long as a specific women, of course, will find specific things attractive, you know. They might find a guy who earns more money attractive or less money attractive, like, or a specific amount money attractive. But the point is, earning a decent amount is for the economy that you're in, and being able to adapt to the economies that are ahead of us as well for the future is something that is universally going to be pretty attractive. So you got to get yourself to that level. I'm trying to get myself to that level. So I push and strive to make content like this and to do the things I do outside of this to get to that position. And women don't live that life. So they could never feel what it's like to be placed with this amount of responsibility and have to perform, unforgivingly, to make it to a level to where, you see yourself going from nothing to something, from little attraction to an excess of it, right? So women have the ability to overindulge or to indulge in their options. And so they got to be careful, and they got to be like, because for men, it's all about building. We have to build our muscles. We have the muscle bodies. Women have muscle bodies. Men have muscle bodies, right? But men are supplied with extra testosterone for a reason, because we need to use that pain that we have, that blue balls that we feel, and put it into something productive to make ourselves attractive. Oh, look, I'm big and bulbous. If you have a kid with me, they're going to carry this like fast muscle twitch fiber in their DNA. So when they go to lift weights, it's going to be an easier process for them, and then naturally going to be strong and take a liking to it and all these things, because I've done that in my own time, So what the father is, the son will also turn out to be to some degree as well, So you want to be the best possible man you can be before you even have a kid, because your kid is going to take on all of your biological traits. They're going to think similarly to you. They might take up other interests, but the way their brain chemistry operates, it's going to be of a similar level, It's going to be to the point where you don't even need to talk to your kid to know that something's up, because there's an energy bond that you share there with having similar DNA to the point where you already know what's up, Now, obviously, 50%, the other 50% of the DNA that's encoded within a child comes from the wife as well. So there's always going to be that little bit of challenge there, but it's enough similarity to be like, I can make my assumptions are going to be more accurate, more often than not, or at least half of the time, which is a good ratio, I'd say. So I just think that, women, they see it as, oh, I just fell in love with this guy, he was just amazing. But it's like, no, he made himself amazing. He didn't start out amazing. You found him when he was amazing, but it took time, it took discipline, it took motivation, it took consistency, it took hardship, it took failure, and then he reached success. And then you say, oh, he's so charming and he's so handsome. He wasn't born like that, Maybe to a degree. I mean, you can get that passed down genetically. Don't get me wrong. You can be genetically inclined for certain things in life. And I feel as though everyone should find out very quickly what they're more genetically inclined as in life, and like use that to your advantage, because it is a superpower. I think we all got unique superpowers. Like, some people are more destined athletically to be footballers, right? Some people are born without legs. So what do they got to do? They got to use their head, because it's all they have. So this is what I'm saying, in that like, there are certain things about us that we can't control, we got given, and we can't change. But the difference between a man and a woman is a man has to build it, right? We have the muscle bodies, We're naturally a little bit more athletic than women, right? But we still have to put work in to actually achieve or get closer to our full potential. Women don't have to do that. They hit their full potential by the time they're 19, 20 years old, and kind of their growth plates close, and all they'll ever be is what they are or were since they were 19 to 20 years old, and anything past that is just an older, saggier version, right? And it's not to say that older women and, are not beautiful and are not desirable. Of course they are, right? But they're more so beautiful and desirable after the age of like 20. It more so, you don't look for beauty in a woman anymore. You're more so looking for like her character, what her character has been during her prime years and what it's like after the prime years, and you're looking for consistency. You're looking for a woman who has a low body count. You're looking for someone who's preserving themselves and constantly, testing guys to make sure she gets the right guy without having to go through too many guys. Because the issue is that if she doesn't do it and she's not strict and harsh on herself and then also to other dudes in the process, especially after some experience, if she doesn't start to implement that type of ideology, then she's going to be left to the wayside completely, Or some dude will pick her up later down the line when she has like a 10 plus body count, a double digit body count, which I personally think is quite excessive. I feel like as a woman, when you're with a man in a relationship or situationship, it's quite likely that it's going to last a few months or a few years. And so you're going to have a lot of sex in between that. So when you break up, why are you instantly getting with another dude? I feel like take some time off and then entertain it, because you need that rewiring process and reset a little bit to know like, okay, this is what I got from my previous relationship. What was I going into the previous relationship looking for? And now what am I looking for on top of that? So I feel like guys might complain about, a woman adjusting her strategy over time as she ages, but I think that's a good thing. I think if you're a woman and you go through some experiences at a young age, right, and you don't, from those experiences, you don't learn and then start to adjust your strategy, like mating strategy and all this type of stuff as you age, I think that's stupid. I think you're supposed to evolve. You're supposed to, grow. You know what I'm saying? But preservation, I think, is the main thing that we look for in women. And I think we can only respect a woman when she's well preserved. She does not need to be perfectly preserved, right? Because it's like, for example, take me, I'm recording this video on an iPhone 15 Pro, right? This iPhone 15 Pro, I bought it because it's a refurbished model. So therefore it has had previous owners or a previous owner, right? But it works almost like a new phone. And so I saw that within the listing photos. I saw the pictures of this photo, the phone, the screen looks seamless. It doesn't have any scratches on it, or it might have a very light scratch that I can barely see. And in order to be able to see it, I'd need a microscope under some intense studio lighting just to get, the tiniest speck from, the scratch that is on the screen. So it's so minimal that, if I'm just using the phone naturally and, I'm looking at things on the phone simultaneously, there are ads popping up, I'm looking at content, I'm, using my phone and I'm being focused on using the phone, I'm not going to see what's on the screen because it's so minimal. It's like, okay, it doesn't really matter. And so the same way, I got this quality refurbished phone that came to me on an 87% battery health, statistic, right, out of 100. That's kind of what I'm looking for in a woman as well. Like, or better, obviously. If she's a virgin, it's cool. I would say it would be better, but it's not like absolutely necessary as a requirement, because I'm not. So it might be a bit hypocritical for me to be like, but I mean, I would still take it, but it just doesn't happen to come around often, obviously, right? It's pretty rare. I mean, there are more virgin men than there are women. And I don't blame women for this. I just think that women biologically are designed to be like, because as soon as they turn 13 and start growing into their teenage years, obviously they're having periods for the first time and things like this. And so it's like a thing of where, when women look at a man, even for the very first time, she could be 16 or something, and it's in a country where 16 is the legal age to have sex. So say the UK or somewhere else in the world where it's 16 is the legal age to have sex, because there are a lot of places where it is 18, but there are a few countries where it is 16 as well, right? So if you take the UK, for example, girls here, they are having sex at 16, right? And so, but they're not like, they're having sex with a guy who they believe at that time could be must have something about him to the point where they view him as a suitable mate and someone who could be a husband to them one day, right? They're not thinking the guy is going to go off and have his own fun and cheat and do all these other things behind their back, and embarrass them, and then also abandon them at the same time, right? They're not going into the relationship thinking that. It just kind of ends up happening, because I mean, the dude, you know, he can't control himself. I think it's just that simple, right? And it's a temptation that's going to be there for guys who are getting to it and who are winning in life. But you got to be able to be like, no, I'm holding this for someone that I love and respect and care about, because I know that if I didn't, and we had a certain type of agreement, if it was monogamous, let's say, right? Because that's the example I'm pretty much portraying here. And it's that, it would be disrespectful to kind of go off and do something else. So I'm actually just going to be like, right, I'll just keep it for this person only. It's going to be difficult, but let me see what else I can do in that time. Can I make some more money? If I'm not going to have sex with a random hooker, can I just make some more money in that time? Yeah, okay. Or with a random, it doesn't have to be a hooker. It could be a hooker or a hoe, right? It could be a girl who's sleeping around for money, or sleeping around just for the sense of validation that she's sleeping around with a dude who is doing well, So for status, basically, right? So I think it's like, I understand it, why a guy would do that, but it's not necessarily right, And the woman's going to feel a type of way because she's human, and she's going to be like, well, you did me dirty. So now all I can think about is, finding a way to make myself feel better, which is what? Going to someone who's going to make me feel that, But that can be a dangerous cycle. I mean, a woman going to sleep with another dude just because their dude slept with another woman, in a sense, it's kind of like, okay, but what about this next dude? Are they going to respect you? I guess you don't care, and you slyly know that in the moment, because you're just thinking, I want to feel better than what I feel right now, But I think you could just talk it out with the guy and be like, right, okay, you went and did that with the other girl, but like, what are you doing for her that you're not doing for me? And if the guy's like, oh, nothing, I'm just sleeping with her, I'm not giving her money, but I'm just horny, and so I went and did it, and maybe you were away on a girl's trip for a week, right? You went out somewhere on holiday to some nice place. I was just alone in the house, It's not something you do often, but it's just something you do once in a while, right? And I'm just alone in the house. I'm like, okay, let me just, I got some holes in my DMs as it is. Let me just entertain it. Because if you were around here, I wouldn't. But because you're not around, I'll just entertain it until you get back. And then it's back to leaving them on red and being all about you, because you're back home. And you could have that conversation, be like, okay, but do you still see a future with us too? Like, are you still building for our future, working on your business, looking to buy like a home, looking to have like the same amount of, like the same amount of kids that I want to have? Like, are we aligned in this sense where we can actually have a life together that's long lasting? If the answer is yes, then I don't know, maybe you do need to reconsider like leaving him just for cheating, but I don't know, because the emotions are probably going to get the better of you. But I think, and that's, because it's hard, because men and women are both human. We feel the same emotions, but we feel them for different situations, I'd say, right? When a woman cheats on a man, it hurts him deeply, because it's like, that is the main thing of value to us. It's not your personality. Your personality, we give your personality a chance when you show that you are someone who's well preserved, well kept, right? Just like women give our personality a chance as men when we show that we are built to a solid degree. We have a foundation, that isn't shaky. So it's not going to fall as soon as you step on it. You're not going to feel your feet sink into the cement. No, because it's firm and hard, right? And available for you whenever you need to use it. All you might need to do is ask for permission for the owner of the land if you can have access, right? That's it, right? And so we might say, yeah, because you make our land look good by just being on it. You attract more business to us by being on it. So yeah, you can get access for free. Everyone else gonna have to pay, because when they see you on it, it's an attraction, right? And you can just be like, the saleswoman in that sense, and getting them to pay because it's valuable land, right? So, but the point is, as the saleswoman, you didn't have to pay in the first place. I'm paying you, right? Because in paying you, you're paying me, by being the attraction that leads to conversion for my business. So, yeah, it's just in this, that analogy was used just in the sense to say that, you know, as men, we want something, we want some arm candy on our hand, and we don't want to walk around with a woman and then have other guys screaming from across the street like, yeah, you know, I saw her here, she's on Twitter, she's on Reddit doing you know what, oh, I brought her back to my place, you know, all I had to do was take my shirt off in the club and she was drunk, and I just, you know, brought her back to my place, you know, and I didn't even send her an Uber back. She asked for an Uber back. I told her pay for it herself, and all this type of stuff. It's like, if you've been if you put yourself in situations, too many situations where you have been disrespected by guys, other guys can't take you seriously. If you've been disrespected by 5 guys, 10 guys, 15 guys, we're going to disrespect you too, because there's nothing to respect. We're going to look at it as like, if those guys didn't find a reason to respect you long term enough for you to be in a relationship with them instead of me, why am I going to respect you? But the difference is there's always nuance as well. Like, a woman could have been in those situations and learned from her lessons. But I think a number is important to establish in terms of a metric for value. Because if you're looking at, okay, a woman has been led on by a guy maybe once or twice, forgivable, you know? As I said, that would probably convert into maybe like 90% battery health on an iPhone. That's good enough. I feel like the preservation is solid, because at the same time, it's like, I'm not the richest guy in the world. I'm not the best looking guy in the world. I'm not the fittest guy in the world, but I'm extremely fit. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing extremely well for myself, for my age, or whatever the case might be. So it's like, I'm not the richest man in the world, but say if I have 2 million at the age of 23, dude, I'm in like the top 0.0 something percent of people my age, right? And so it's like, she's in the top 90% of battery health, because the battery health on a phone could range or vary from anywhere between 0, right, to like 100. So when you look at that, it's like, okay, yeah, it's damn near a new phone. Yeah, I can work with this. This will last me a long time. This will be good. This will be substantial. You know, it will be fulfilling. But if you give me a phone with a battery percent of 50, battery health of 50%, I'm like, bro, I'm constantly thinking, damn, this is gonna die on me at any moment. You know, like, it's not reliable. She could go and see another guy who has, if we get in an argument, she could be like, oh, well, I've got another guy who's in a pretty similar position to you in life anyway. He's just about as tall as you, makes just about as much money. Now I'm going to move over to him because we had an argument, you know? And it's like, you can detach that easily. Like, that's kind of insane, you know? So there's one thing to do if we had an argument and say you were annoyed and you were upset and you ghost me, but if you don't entertain any other guys within that period, you know, at least like to a point where it gets graphic and sexual, right? Especially after we've been sexual, then it's like, now I can't take you serious anymore. It's a disappointment. Like, you're supposed to have your little sad moment, you know, cry, listen to some like heartbreak songs, you know, but just be on your own and, you know, be working on things and keeping yourself. And you know, you should be thinking like all dudes are trash, but I'm eventually gonna get over this to go back to that one dude instead of to go to a couple different dudes. That's the difference. And so preservation is really important for a woman. It really is, you know, because if you have easy access to sex, you have 100 men in your DM as soon as you turn 18, just for on the same day that you create a social media profile, just for being attractive, something that you didn't earn, although is a nice feature, but you didn't earn. You were born with this because puberty gave you it. You don't have control over puberty, how puberty is going to develop you, but it happened to be nice to you. Mother Nature blessed you. And now you think because Mother Nature blessed you, now you devalue all of the attention that you get, and you think men are replaceable. So as soon as something goes wrong with one man, it's on to the next, without trying to see whether there's a genuine way in which you could make things work. That to me is just, it's ridicule. It's ridiculous. It's honestly preposterous, and it's just bad behavior. You know, it's unreliability there, you know, Like even as a man, women are not very reliable, in nature. But I just think that they need to have a certain level of reliability still, just to have this trust element, right? You know, because I'm very trustable. I know I'm very trustable as a guy. I know what my morals are. I know that I want to be in a monogamous relationship. I know I want to keep things, you know, just between me and my woman, right? But it's like a lot of women, they don't value that because they have so much access to sex that it's kind of like a drug for them, you know? It's not the same thing, but us as men, we have to work in order to get access to sex. And even when we work in order to get access to sex, we may still not get as much access to a woman, or we may get more, and a lot of times we could get more as well, especially if we, start to become famous. We're a known celebrity all across the world, you know. At that point, yes, men at that level will have probably more options to sex than even an attractive woman, It can vary, it can be a vice versa type of thing, but at the end of the day, if they get that, they've earned it, they deserve it. So they deserve to be on that higher pedestal than the woman does, because she's put in the only work women need to put in is preservation work, not the work to build something, because women don't really build. And if they do, it's not to the same degree that a man does, because it's not required. It's not something they have the testosterone and energy to do on a consistent basis without feeling tired and needing to take a nap in between it, and then having the period cycle and all this stuff, right? They're not built for it, just biologically not built for it. It's a fact. It's not an opinion. Whereas with men, we are built for it. We are built to be running every day, and we get that testosterone shot in the morning, and then after we've done all our work and we need to rest late in the night, then it goes down and we can rest, and then it goes back up in the morning the next day for us to repeat that cycle and continue, right? So we're natural providers in that sense. So it's a reason why these gender terms and interactions and situations exist in this way. And so I think when women break that, they try to act like the man, or men try to act like the woman. It just doesn't work. And we need to stick to each other's roles. And women need to preserve themselves, really vet guys, vet themselves, as in find out what you're just have, like, you don't need to be as strategic with it as a guy and be like, in terms of a guy building his life, there's far more strategy involved in a guy building his life than there is in a woman preserving her life and her soul, right? Like how many people she gives her body to, and then how many attachments that she's formed over a lifetime, because the girl I'm speaking to, it's like she'll be referencing her ex. It's very rare, to be honest. It's like once every couple of months I can count on my hand how many times. So it's really not often, but it's something I know. Okay, something is there. Like she's not in contact with him or anything like that, but it's just like she'd be thinking about that shit from time to time. Maybe just the way he did her, maybe the way the whole situation went, right? From both sides, her side and other dude's side. And I'm just like, I could never erase that because it's already happened, but it still made me feel like, okay, all right, damn, that did happen, and it's something I'm going to have to deal with, because now she's adjusted herself to a certain way where, she has expectations for the next dude that comes in. And I'm up for the challenge. I'm not here to be like, oh, you can't expect this of me. The other guy got in for less, and I have to get in for more. But I actually respect that, because it's kind of like, okay, as long as you are, better than you were before, and you put the work in and you manage to attract me and keep me and all these types of things, then to me, it's like, all right, okay, we might have something here, So, but preservation is not the same thing for men and women. Like for us as men, when we build, we are preserving ourselves when we build anyway. But apart from just staying on the same level, we're actually increasing, because to build is not only do you have to preserve what you have to build, but then on top of that, you grow as well. So whereas women, they don't grow to the same rate as men, So I just think We have different, and there's a reason why women look for certain things in men. We look for certain things in them. You know, they look for strength and stability in us. You know, we're looking for, sexiness in them. And I'd also say some sophistication as well. I think pretty much is what we're looking for, right? And so they give us respect when we have strength. We give them respect when they are like sophisticated, And it's mainly the sophisticated aspect and not the sexy aspect. At least for me personally, that's what I look for in a woman. Because I can have great sex with any woman. I can, it's not an issue, bro. It's not and the better the looking the woman is, the more shallow, the more conceited oftentimes she is, because she has more options. She has more going on in her life, more men just trying to get at her in real life, online. And she's got all these other things going on. And, not enough time to be a little bit of a side girl and think about you from time to time when you're working and thinking about, oh, what could he be doing? Stuff like that. That's cutesy stuff. She didn't have the time to be, she looks cute, but her personality isn't cute because she got so many things going on. She didn't actually have the time to curate this cutesy type of personality, So it's kind of in a sense where she's always on the job, dealing with dudes, always on the job, being a model. She's kind of like a man in a sense, even though she could look nothing alike a man. You see what I'm saying? So, but if you have a woman who's a little bit more average looking, and doesn't have as much going on, but does have more to offer you, and, for the fact that, to compensate for the fact that maybe she didn't have as much going on, I feel like that's the kind of trade-off I'm looking for as a man. I want a woman being more invested in me than she can be invested in herself, of course, and her family, wholesome things like that, but then also be invested in me, to a degree where I feel okay, I have her attention, I know it's locked in. But when I don't have a woman's attention to a degree that I feel is decent for me, I'm just kind of I'm not really interested, And so, yeah, I think guys, we just got to build our lives, and I think men have got to preserve the amount of guys that kind of get to go inside, right? Because when things work this way, it's all harmony, I would say, right? So, yeah, it's we got to build the exterior as men. Do you understand? We got to build the frame. We got to build the muscle, Whereas with women, I think they got to preserve what's on the inside, and they got to make sure that, they're not they have a good diet, they're getting good sleep, all of this type of stuff, because as men, our diet is going to be, it's not always going to be the best because we're working so much. Our sleep is not always going to be the best because we're working so much as well, right? But women have more of a chance to improve in these specific areas than guys do. So I think that's the things they should be working on. And internally as well, being in touch with, just themselves, maybe not taking birth control, stuff like that, that's hormone altering and is going to affect the way that they see men and what type of men they'll be attracted to, but being natural and, having your periods when they do come about and when you do have them, because I think all these things are the values that men and women look for in one another in order to be damn, he's attractive. He's got something. I can see it, And as a man, you're damn, she's attractive. She's got something. But it's not more so what you can see, it's what you can feel, So I think it's because you can see a beautiful woman, but you might not feel anything for her, You might just want to hit it and quit it. But it's you see something for a girl, she might just be average, but you actually feel something for her. You be having deep eye contact, she be smiling, she looking away, then looking back at you, smiling again. And it's that's that deep chemistry and bond that is it just screams love to me, So that is what I look for. Can you make me feel? Because a lot of women, they don't make guys feel anything because they think because they get all the attention that they can't put in any work. They can't like take time out of their day to just call you for a simple hello or something, you know? And this is why, guys, we just hit it and quit it at that point, because we're not attached, you know? And then over time, you'll give it up to us, but you haven't made us feel this sense of attachment. So by the time you give it up to us, you know, we weren't into you before, and we're even less into you after we've hit it. But it's like, if we were into you before we hit, after we hit, we're gonna be more into you, you know? So that's the I think that's the advice I could give women, is like, if there's a guy you find attractive and you want to deal with him, make him feel something for you. Like, truly, you know? Because like, if he annoys you, right? If he makes a mistake, don't completely cut him out your life, but ghost him for a bit. Make him feel that your presence is missed, you know? But if he's doing something well, also congratulate him, send him some praise to make sure he feels noticed, you know, and seen, right? Because that is going to hold him in your life, right? When he knows he's messed up, he can come to you and say, I'm genuinely sorry, I really fucked up. Like, and I'm going to give you your space to process it, but I'm fucking sorry, like, honest to God, right? And then so with women, and then so on the flip side, when he's doing well, you can be like, you're great, like, you're doing amazing, you know what I'm saying? I want you to continue, like, you know, I've seen your growth all of this time, you know, from when we first started interacting to now, and I'm proud of you. You know, something simple, small, it's free. But a lot of women, they don't want to do that. And if you don't want to do that, you ain't gonna get like no husband. You know, if you can't make him feel loved, you know, but also make him miss you at the same time when it's required, of course, not just randomly ghost him. Like, when he ghosts you, he can feel it because he fucked up, you know, not just because you felt like it and you wanted to entertain another option. It's not how that shit goes, all right? You know, so yeah, I don't know. I think that's the playbook for men and women right there. I touched on a lot, but yeah, just a little bit of a return video, and I've got a lot more videos to make, so I'll probably be making some more videos. Stay fucking tuned, and I'll see you niggas later.